What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. That's right, I said it, where we talk about everything mental health, substance abuse, and then sometimes I just bullshit, basically. As you can see, my setup is a little different today. I'm actually off of work because my wife and I had our 6 week checkup with our baby boy, River. He's almost 10 pounds now, so he's gaining weight. Everything is amazing with him. But I'm here at my house on the lake as opposed to being at work stuck in an office. So I'm pretty excited about that, but I was not going to let you guys down, and I was going to do a video in spite of not being at work. I mean, listen, I'm a working guy, I'm a family man. I mean, typically, I literally do these videos on my lunch break every day, my hour-long lunch break. I spend 30 minutes of that every day with you guys, just talking about God knows what, all kinds of things. Today I'm at home, but as I said, I was not going to let my subscribers down and my listeners, and we always have things to talk about. Therefore, that's what we're going to do. Duty calls, and I am not one to renege on my duties. So here we go. All right, so we've been talking about all kinds of interesting things here recently. Um, and more recently, I've kind of just, been telling stories more so, and that I've been addressing some of my subscribers' comments, so forth and so on, because I found that there's people out there who are dealing with all kinds of issues and concerns in regards to substance abuse and things like that, and so we've been kind of talking about that. But I did a couple of videos recently. We've been talking about kind of the difference in addictions, how it almost seems like in our country and our culture, that it is ingrained inside of us to have this kind of instant gratification, dopamine chasing sort of culture, right? And we were talking about that, and we were talking about how, if you don't have an addiction to a substance, you have an addiction to social media or pornography or watching television. And there's addictions to other substances that may not be considered a drug, like sugar and processed foods. We talked about all of these things. And as you know, on here, when I started this channel, one of the most important things for me is that I never took a hard stance or approach on either side of the fence. In other words, I want to be objective on this channel. I don't want to be subjective on this channel. And so I don't want to ever sound like I'm taking a hard stance on either side of an issue, whether it be having to do with substance abuse or something else, which typically is about substance abuse. That's, kind of what I talk about on this channel. But we were talking about it the other day, and I felt like I may have been guilty of kind of downplaying a little bit, because I was talking about some people that I knew that, although you wouldn't consider them a drug addict, or you wouldn't consider them being addicted to any sort of substance. I talked about some people I knew that were definitely addicted to eating or processed foods, as in they were 60, 80, 100 pounds overweight. I talked about some people I knew who were definitely addicted to, sodas like Dr. Pepper, sugar, things like that. And I just want to not necessarily stand corrected, but go into kind of a deeper dive on a couple of things, because I don't want to be one of those people to downplay a drug addiction. Because I would be the last person to downplay something like a drug addiction, because, like I said, I've experienced some serious negative repercussions and negative consequences as a result of, being addicted to some sort of substance in my past. So it's not that I'm saying what I was talking about the other day was wrong, as in maybe I was a little naive about some things, and I got a really good comment as well that I want to address. And it's like I told you guys, I'm one of those people that I get on here, I speak my mind. What I talk about is just my opinion. An opinion is like what? An asshole. Everybody has one, and myself included. But I'm one of those people that, I don't come on here and drag people through the coals because they feel differently than what I do. And a lot of times, you guys will come on and say, well, hey, man, what about this or what about that? And oftentimes, it's something that conceptually I knew, but it's just something I haven't thought about. You know, and you know how you'll forget something, and then 2 years later, somebody will say, well, "What about this?" And you'll be like, "That's right. That's right. You're right. I haven't really thought about that." And it's one of those things. And I had someone leave a comment that, um, you know, definitely kind of alerted me that, hey, dude, you need to tread carefully. Because the truth of the matter is, there's levels to drug addiction, and drug addiction for some people can be a very, very soul stealing, detrimental affair, okay, and a detrimental way of life to the point of death for some people. And there's levels to everything, and I know that just like you have people who like food a little bit and are a little bit overweight, and then you have shows like My 600 Pound Life and the 1,000 Pound Sisters. And that's obviously a completely different level when it comes to, unhealthy eating, obesity, processed food addiction, that sort of thing. And we talk about all that on here because why? Because it's a loaded subject that carries a lot of personal feelings with it. Okay, and if you hold those things down and suppress those things down into the pit of your basement, and you don't talk about those things, they tend to eat people up on the inside, and I think is something that's important to talk about. So that's why I created this. That's why I created this channel, this forum, to help myself with my own substance abuse issues, to be able to talk about it and kind of put it out there, and to get support from everyone else, but to also be able to offer support and offer a judgment free zone and forum where other folks who are experiencing different issues, drug abuse or substance abuse issues in their life, can come on here and tell their stories and get some people who are actually concerned and loving, compassionate people who also share a sense of, hey, I know what you're going through because I've been through something similar, and here's what I've gone through, and here's what I did in that situation. And so we kind of help and support each other in that way. And so I had a guy leave a comment the other day, and unfortunately, I printed out this comment, but I did not print out the individual's name. So I apologize for that. What I'll do is after I post this video, because I like to give everybody credit. If I'm not on here trying to take credit for anyone's insights, and you guys should know that. So because I don't have the commenter's name, what I'm going to do after this video and after I post this video, I'll go in and I'll put the person who made this comment's username in there so that I can give credit where credit is due. Because when I read this comment, that kind of let me know that hey, you need to tread carefully. You need to make sure to be objective on this channel, and that's one of my main focuses. Okay, because if there's one thing that I found that is important in this world is to have understanding and insights from both sides of a subject. And there's no one-way streets here, right? And all two-lane highways are what? Two-lane roads, and you have one going east, and one going west, or one going north, and one going southbound. And it's the same thing on subjects, like drug abuse. Even though they're very, very, very personal subjects, you get a whole gamut, a whole array of differing opinions on this sort of thing. So when I was talking about people being addicted to Dr. Peppers and food and stuff like that, the same as other people are addicted to substances and stuff like that. what I don't want people to think is that I'm downplaying the seriousness of a drug addiction by saying something like that, because there are big differences. And that's kind of what this comment is directed to, my discussion on that. And this person left a comment that kind of alerted me on some things, like, and it, I want to discuss it because they're right. They're right. And like I said, not that I'm necessarily standing corrected, as much as I was a little bit naive in my thinking on certain things regarding that. So first off, let me just read this comment, and I'm just going to kind of respond to it, and we'll go from there. So the comment says, addiction, as defined by the American Medical Association as well as most other medical societies worldwide, is a disease. Now, in parentheses, some people like to argue this point, and I always ask them, where did you go to medical school? Because I'm curious how you got your plethora of medical knowledge that contradicts the majority of healthcare professionals around the world. So, are some diseases worse than others? Definitely. And what makes them worse depends on the situation and the person. The flu kills some, and others hit it with some NyQuil and sleep it off. Great point. While your coworkers, now he's referring to, I talked about a coworker that I have, which I obviously would never mention any names on here, especially when it comes to, I love the company I work for, and it's a great company. I'm very appreciative for that company. And this company is full of humans, and none of us are perfect, including myself, because I work there too. So it was a situation that I was talking about where I know someone there that is addicted or dependent upon Dr. Peppers, and they drink 4 or 5 of them a day. And this person has professed and confessed to me that they get headaches and are irritable and things like that when they don't have their Dr. Peppers. And I was comparing and contrasting that to, kind of like a drug addiction. And so that is where this comment here comes from, and that's that discussion of mine is what this is in response to. Um, he says, while your coworkers Dr. Pepper dependence, I hesitate to call it an addiction, could contribute to her health plummeting. That's just it. It's contributing to pre-existing conditions. Then there is a whole lot of the behavior aspect, which I understand is the main differentiator between addiction and dependence. Mrs. Dr. Pepper, by example, probably isn't going out here sourcing Dr. Pepper before she goes out of town for fear that she can't find it where she is going. That's a great point. So basically, what he's saying is that the difference in having a dependence on something like Dr. Pepper and being a drug addict is the behavior that surrounds that addiction. The fear of not being able to have it, and going out of your way to source that very thing for fear of not having it. And I'm going to stop right there in the middle and kind of respond to that. Well, I agree with that. I agree with that. I will push back a little bit to say that sourcing Dr. Pepper is somewhat different than sourcing a lot of the quote unquote drugs that people might be addicted to. You can definitely find Dr. Pepper at a lot more places than you could find, for example, a Kratom, or stuff like a Vicodin or a Percocet, or cocaine, heroin, whatever it is. Certain ones, those illicit ones like the heroin and cocaine, those are even harder to find. You have to find a basically a drug dealer to get stuff like that from. And, the Kratom, I mean, they have them at head shops, but Dr. Pepper is one of those things you can find them in gas stations, in Food Lions, Walmarts, Target, just Harris Teeter, again, any gas station on the corner. So, while they may not be as desperate to go and seek out and source a Dr. Pepper as they would like having Kratom, or having a Vicodin, or having Percocet or whatever as they go out of town. Some of that lack of sourcing just has to do with the overabundance of availability by Dr. Pepper. This person wouldn't have to worry about sourcing Dr. Pepper because she would be aware already that you can find Dr. Pepper on any given corner in any given gas station or any given corner store, including all of the main, grocery store chains, department store chains, that sort of thing. So that's part of it. But I understand that that's not really what this commenter meant. What he was saying is um, the addiction itself or the dependence itself on the Dr. Pepper is not going to leave her in as much of a state of desperation as a person who is coming off of, say, a narcotic or an opiate. Okay. And my second pushback on that is a lot of that also has to do with the withdrawals because the sourcing certain drugs is a direct correlation as to how it feels to come off of said drug. You understand what I mean? And I remember, and my brother won't mind if I say this. My brother, probably 15 years ago, it's been a while. He's chilled out a lot now, but my brother at one point went through an issue with his first wife where he was doing cocaine, right? The whole family was concerned about him. Obviously, cocaine is not only very expensive, but can be very dangerous, for the heart and it's just a stimulant in general. And he was using it pretty regularly, and to the point where I noticed he was losing weight because of it because he just wasn't eating. He was snorting cocaine, and it obviously suppresses the appetite. But I remember when he stopped doing that, and we actually almost kind of had like a family intervention on him. And my dad went out, my dad and myself went out and picked him up one night, and we took him to the hospital just to see if there was anything that a doctor could do from a medical end, you know, to help him. And really, the only thing they suggested is for him to get in a drug treatment program and start going to meetings, start going to like NA and stuff like that because there were really no physical withdrawals associated with cocaine to be concerned about. You might be a little down for a couple of days because you're used to having that, you know, that mood enhancing chemical that's going to hype you up, that sort of thing. And when you're used to having something like that in your body, it can definitely wreak havoc like on your mood and your mental state a little bit, right? But there weren't really no physical withdrawals or symptoms associated with coming off of something like cocaine, right? Ironically enough, there's not. I know it sounds weird. It sounds counterintuitive because cocaine, we think of it as being one of the more serious drugs that there is out there, and I believe it is. But as far as looking at it as a whole and the whole scope of what kind of withdrawals might be one might experience when coming off of something like cocaine, is completely different than something like a narcotic in terms of like an opiate, pain pills, kratom, Vicodin, Percocet, heroin, all of these, right? And and so I will say that I think the drug seeking behavior that's characterized by the compulsion to seek that drug and the compulsion to use, a lot of that is has a direct correlation with how bad the withdrawals, how bad the acute withdrawals are in coming off of said substance. And I can speak on that from experience. And I've talked about a lot on this channel. 15 years ago when I was fighting my Percocet addiction, my Vicodin and Percocet addiction, um, I'm the type of person that is not only am I not a thief, but I've never been the type of person to steal from my family. And I'm telling you, as clear as I'm sitting here in front of this lake right now, in front of my house, that I stole opiate and narcotic medications from my parents over and over and over and over. And looking back on that in hindsight and in retrospect now, I am 1000% sure that I would not have done that if there had not have been such severe physical withdrawals that I knew I would be facing inevitably if I were to stop taking that narcotic or that pain pill abruptly. Okay? So, um, something like coming off of something like cocaine, I probably wouldn't have had I wouldn't have had the same compulsion to just gotta have every minute, every minute. If I can't have it, I gotta go somewhere and get it. If I can't go somewhere and get it, I gotta call somebody to find somebody that knows somebody that I can get it from. It's just this, and it talks about it here. And this same commenter, he said there are definitely levels to this shit. Maybe a better comparison is nicotine. Addiction is characterized by a compulsive drug seeking and use, even in the face of negative health consequences. Exactly. And the thing about it is I knew what kind of physical withdrawals I would be facing because I had already faced them. I had already, attempted a couple of times to come off of pain pills and narcotics and things like that. And so I knew what I was up against, and facing that and knowing what kind of how sick and physically ill and depressed and lethargic. Oh, you okay? You all right? You all right? Sorry about that. Knowing how sick and depressed and lethargic that I would feel as a result of coming off of those narcotics was enough to put me over the edge where I was like, you know what? I'm not a thief, but I can make an exception in this case, you know? And a person who has a dependence for Dr. Peppers, it's fair to say that the withdrawals that you might experience from something like, caffeine, sugar, items like that is obviously not going to be as severe. So I would argue that the Dr. Pepper lady wouldn't be worried about sourcing Dr. Pepper as she goes out of town. I agree with that. But I will say, too, that is not because it's not as addictive. I would argue that that is just as much because the withdrawals from something like caffeine or Dr. Pepper is not as bad. So the stopping is not as bad. So if for some crazy reason she did go out of town, and let's just say there's some supply chain major, I mean, just once in a lifetime supply chain shortage of Dr. Pepper, and she goes out of town and she can't find any Dr. Pepper. I mean, she might be a little irritable, and she might have a slight headache for a couple of days or whatever because no caffeine, no sugar, whatever. But the person who is heavily addicted to kratom or Vicodin or Percocet or heroin or something along these lines is quite a different vacation when you go out of town for 5 days and you don't have one of those items. Okay, you're looking at physical sickness and diarrhea. You're looking at flu like symptoms, cold chills. You're looking at restless legs at night, spending the whole night without getting any sleep whatsoever, days and days and days at a time without sleeping, severe depression. I mean, it's just completely different. So while I agree with what this person is saying, and there's definitely some things in here that I didn't think about, having to do with the compulsion behind an addiction versus a dependence where it's more like I'm physically dependent, my body's used to having it, but I'm not going to go break into somebody's house and steal Dr. Pepper. You know what I'm saying? But, there's a flip side to that same coin. You wouldn't have to break into somebody's house, steal Dr. Pepper, but you could just go run down the street and, grab one off the shelf for 99 cents. It's a very cheap thing and it can be found everywhere. So, again, I just wanted to bring bring light to the fact that there were certain things I was missing, and there were certain things that I was being naive about when I was comparing, because there is no comparison. There's no real comparison between someone who's addicted to caffeine and sugar and someone who's addicted to an opiate or a narcotic. And I completely agree with that. They're really completely on two different playing fields, okay? And I don't want to be one of those people that comes on here and because I like to take kratom, I come on here and I just downplay, inevitably downplaying the negative effects of said substance and or narcotic or opiate. I don't want to be that guy because I always said that when I started this channel, I wanted to be truthful, you know, on every topic, even if it's something that is an exact resemblance of who I am and how I am and what I take and what my habits are as far as substance use. Um, even if it shines a negative light on my own substance abuse behaviors, so be it, man. So be it. I'm in this thing too. And I've said that from the very beginning. I'm a guy who suffers from substance abuse issues, just like all of you guys. Most of you guys that end up on my channel have some history with the same sort of thing. So there's no shame in my game. Of course, there's shame and guilt associated with a lot of the things I've done in the past, but I don't do that anymore. I don't do that anymore. And I've made amends with those things, but there's nothing inside of me that wants to come on here and mislead people and downplay it. And for anybody who maybe is thinking about starting taking kratom or is just at their beginning of their relationship with narcotics, I don't ever want that person to come hear me and get this twisted idea from listening to me that it's no big deal, man. It's no big deal. It's not as bad as people say. Just take what you want, try to be careful about it and just go on about your business. Nah. I won't do that. I'll never do that on this channel. Because I care about people. I care about people, and I care about myself. That's why I started this channel, and it was kind of a play for me to kind of have my own self therapy through just talking about these things and talking about a lot of the things that I've been through as a result of substance abuse. I'm going to finish the rest of this comment and then I'm going to close this thing out. Um, Maybe a better comparison is nicotine. Addiction is characterized by compulsive drug seeking and use, even in the face of negative health consequences. While this does apply to most smokers who are well aware of the negative health consequences and would like to quit but struggle to do so, I don't think it can come close to the things that people would do for things like heroin or fentanyl. As a smoker, I've done some foul shit for a nicotine fix, but as an opiate addict, I've done far worse and seen far worse. Me and you both, brother. Me and you both. Again, it forces me to tie back into the fact that also plays, plays back into the availability of said substances. You can buy cigarettes anywhere. You can, even if you can't afford the $4 or $5 for a pack of cigarettes, you can find any given person within 10, 20 feet of you. And if you're in a grocery store or in a place where there's 100 people, probably 10 of those people are going to smoke cigarettes. And you can bum them off. And I know this because I used to be a smoker as well. So the availability of a cigarette is far, far more readily available than is some sort of narcotic or opiate. So that is one of the reasons too that I have to circle back to the fact that while I agree that for me it's really the withdrawals of opiates and narcotics that really cause people to do the crazy, crazy shit. It's not even so much that you want that feeling as bad as it is that once you've become addicted, that feeling of not having it becomes so hard, so tough, so physically and mentally taxing and detrimental that it puts you into desperation mode. Um, So anyway, I'm not going to keep beating that dead horse. Okay. He says here, I've never seen someone pimp out their loved ones for nicotine, but unfortunately, I can't say the same for opioids. But I'm sure most people know all of this already and honestly would agree with me. There's levels to everything in this world, whether we're talking success or vice, altruism or criminality. All right, that was just a great comment. It made me aware of a lot of things that I hadn't really thought about in my previous videos. I was doing it, and I just really appreciate this type of engagement. And, and that's why I made this channel so that we can all learn and become the wiser based on our own experiences with substance abuse and substance use. And hopefully this helps somebody today. So anyway, listen, this is a free service. If you enjoy this, just a real guy, no edits, no bullshit, not a larger than life character, a real guy actually living, working from day to day, and sometimes struggling from day to day with substance abuse. If you appreciate this, candor and the honesty and transparency with which I do these videos, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. Again, it's a free service for you. All I ask is you hit that subscribe button. It takes you 2 seconds, and you don't ever have to worry about it again. This is Corey. I'm out. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.